episode contains graphic descriptions of crime. Listeners' discretion is advised for children under the age of 18 and for people who may be sensitive to the details in this episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Krime KE podcast. My good name is Ajuma and I am a human rights journalist from Kenya. This week, we get into the story of the murder of a popular marathoner named Samson Kandie, which happened in October of 2024. Now, this is a story about a problematic marriage, a murder for hire, and a tangled web of betrayal. Samson Kandie was a well-known Kenyan marathoner who got into the spotlight in the late 1990s, when in 1998 and 1999, he finished third in the Berlin marathons. In 2000, he ran the Prague Marathon and the Amsterdam Marathon, and he finished fourth in Prague and third in Amsterdam. 2001 has been described as his breakthrough year because he won both the Kunsan Marathon and the San Sebastian Marathon that year. He then went ahead to represent Kenya in the World Championships in Edmonton, Canada in the same year, but he ended up not finishing that marathon. One of his victories that he is very well known for was when he broke the record for the 2004 Vienna Marathon, clocking 2 hours, 8 minutes and 35 seconds. Now, at the time that this story begins, Kandie was not an active marathoner. He was 53 years old, living in Elgon View Estate in Eldoret with his wife, Rose Chepkemboi Rotich, and their 4 children. Their neighbors told police that the couple had a history of domestic disputes, but they found a way to get along somehow. Now, this story begins on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, when Kandie's family finds him at his home in Elgon View Estate. He was found bleeding, unconscious, and unresponsive near the home's pit latrine, and his hands and legs were tied using a rope. His family alerted the police, who rushed the badly injured athlete to Real Hospital in Eldoret. He was pronounced dead on arrival. According to the police reports, Kandie was found critically injured and rushed to the hospital, and the crime scene evidence immediately pointed to foul play. Other than his legs and hands being tied up, police found that only Kandie's phone was missing, so they actually ruled out robbery as a motive for the attack. The police believe that Kandie was hacked to death at his home and his attacker fled the scene immediately after. The investigations into Kandie's murder led police to 3 suspects, his wife being the prime suspect implicated in his murder. The investigations revealed a motive tied to suspected infidelity in the marriage between Rose and Kandie. Police took her into custody together with 2 men who were the suspected attackers, identified as Vincent Kiprono and Jamlik Morogit. They were arrested and detained at Langas police station just a few days after Kandie's death, before they were arraigned at the Eldoret High Court on 23rd October of 2024. They were subjected to a mental assessment at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital before the trial officially began. Now, they all denied the allegations leveled against them at first. The judge presiding over the case repeatedly rejected their bail and bond applications from Rose and the defendants for several reasons, one being the fact that their lawyers had failed to prove that their clients would not interfere with the witnesses in the case if they were released on bail. 2 being the fact that the court was not assured that they would be safe in the hands of the public if they were released. The third and final reason being that there were high chances that the suspects would fail to attend court if they were freed. Rose actually fainted in one of the bail hearings in February of 2025 after the judge read the ruling that she had been denied bail once again. Now, the prosecution lined up 17 witnesses, including Rose's daughter, crime scene experts, and cybercrime experts to testify in the case and prove them right. Now, according to the prosecution's theory, Rose was the mastermind behind this crime. The state counsel, Kerenge CD, told the court that Rose was in an unhappy marriage and she went to seek help from her co-defendants who helped her attack and beat Kandie to death. Kerenge said that Kandie was attacked, beaten, and left to suffer at his own home, and this was not Rose's first attempt at killing Kandie. The witnesses who were lined up to testify proved the prosecution's theory. Their testimonies all pointed to a calculated plan initiated by Rose to murder her husband over suspected infidelity. One of the main witnesses in the case was a woman identified as Sheila Malakwen. This was Kandie and Rose's former house help. Sheila told the court that Rose had been angry at Kandie for a long time over a suspected affair between him and a commercial sex worker, a woman identified as Millicent. She said that Rose would often complain to her about Kandie's alleged affair, even after she stopped working as their help and ventured into chicken selling. Sheila told the court that Rose would visit her chicken shop to vent about her marital issues all the time. She said that Rose told her that she had found out that Kandie was cheating on her and she wanted to, quote unquote, discipline him, but she did not know how to. Sheila said that she tried to advise her against disciplining her husband and even advised her to seek help from the church, but Rose insisted that she wanted to discipline her husband. So Sheila decided to introduce her to a friend of hers who was a hawker in Eldoret town. Sheila said that the hawker even once used her phone to pose as Millicent's boyfriend and threaten Kandie, supposedly under Rose's direction. Now, Kandie apparently even confided in a former worker, a man named Alex, about the threatening text messages. In Alex's testimony in court, he quoted the messages that Kandie showed him as saying, quotes, "I am looking for your head. I warn you to leave my sister Rose alone and deal with your prostitute, Millicent." The hawker testified in court too, and he said that Rose approached him through Sheila and offered him 200,000 Kenyan shillings to again discipline her husband because he was cheating on her. He said that Rose gave him 10,000 shillings as down payment for the job and asked him to look for people to discipline Kandie. He told the court that he opted out of the assignment when he realized that it was too hard for him to continue. Now, after the hawker dropped out of the plan, Rose went and found another person to discipline her husband. This was a man named Felix. In Felix's testimony, he said that Rose approached him together with another man at the Bilasco Hotel in Eldoret with the same proposal of paying them to discipline her husband. Felix told the court that Rose bought them alcohol and they discussed how they would execute the plan, and she apparently gave them 9,000 shillings as payment. Felix, just like the hawker, dropped out of the plan after they were given the down payment. But apparently, Rose never gave up on her plan. And I just want to say this, that it is both sad and disappointing that none of these people thought it was wise to report to the police before Kandie was actually murdered. They just took the money and ran. The defense lawyers in this case poked holes in the prosecution's case and their evidence by saying that the witness statements in court did not match the witnesses' written statements to the police. Now, this trial is still ongoing, and Rose has maintained her innocence throughout this process. In the last hearing of this case, the two defendants, other than Rose, Vincent and Jamlik, entered into a plea deal with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. According to the deal, the prosecutors had presented sufficient evidence that placed Vincent at Kandie's home between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. on the night of Kandie's attack. Now, Vincent agreed to admit to a lesser charge of manslaughter, saying that he had been instructed by Rose to carry out the attack over the suspected infidelity. On 4th March this year, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison, and he will now act as a state witness in the case against Rose. Jamlik, the third defendant, also entered into a different plea deal with the state, and he was convicted of a lesser charge of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 6 years in prison. He is also expected to testify for the state against Rose in her ongoing murder trial. Now, this case is clearly not over, and I will be sure to provide updates as soon as they are available. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this episode. You can support Krime KE podcast by sharing this episode with your friends and help us to build a larger community. On TikTok and Instagram, we are at krime.ke. On Facebook, you can find me at Ajuma Millicent. I have tagged the podcast contact information and social media pages on the show notes of this episode so that it is easier for you to reach out if you have any feedback on this episode or the podcast in general. We also have a WhatsApp number, which I have put in the show notes of this episode. You can send in voice notes, suggest cases, and give feedback. Don't forget to give the podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify and catch the next episode of Krime KE podcast on Thursday next week on the same platform that you're listening from right now. But until then, stay safe and remember, it is crime with a K.